We will look at a few today of the Sunnah, or the recommended practices of fasting. There are a number of them that are associated with the obligatory fast, but we will look at some of the most important. And the first is Suhoor, the pre-dawn meal. This is one of the sunnahs of our Prophet ﷺ, and at least in the Shafi school, is that the time for Suhoor comes in at midnight. But midnight here not defined as 12 a.m., defined as the time from Salat al-Maghrib to dawn, divided by 2, and then added to Maghrib. So it roughly turns out to be midnight, but sometimes it's more or less that 15 to 20 minutes off. And it enters from midnight and extends that all the way until dawn. And we will get into the recommended practices as that dawn approaches. But this is that a very blessed sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ, and it's really that one of these things that, especially as a convert, it just really makes me smile about the beauty of this deen. How partaking in food can, which is a very mundane act, that can now, through the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ, become a sacred act. And it can become a thing that not only you benefit from, but if we look at a few of the hadith associated with it, that you can benefit immensely from. One of the hadith in the Muslim Imam Ahmad is that our Prophet said, sallallahu Inna Allah wa malaikatuhu yusalluna. Indeed, Allah and His angels pray upon the mutasahhirin, ala al-mutasahhirin. So the mutasahhir is the one who's eating the suhoor. So suhoor is a pre-dawn meal. And if you put a fatha on the scene, sahur, it's actually what you're eating at that particular time. Just as wudu is the actual act of that wudu, and the wadu is the water that you use for it. So when you read the hadith about the companions, that they used to fight over, not the wudu, they used to watch carefully the wudu of Rasulullah, but they used to fight over his wudu. They used to fight over the water that he used, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and that they would take barakah from, as well as a number of other things associated with him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Every time that he would clear his throat, everything associated with him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that they viewed as being utterly pure. Everything that came from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was pure. Even things that are normally not pure for other human beings. Everything about him was beautiful, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But look at this hadith, that you are eating a meal in the middle of the night as it gets closer to dawn, and Allah and His angels are praying upon you. Allahu Akbar. What a blessing. And this is why we refer to Rasulullah as the Miftah Bab Rahmatillah. He's the key that opens the door of Allah Ta'ala's mercy. And then another hadith in Bukhari Muslim that our Prophet said, Tasahharu, eat the pre-dawn meal, فَإِنَّ فِي السُّحُورِ barakah. Eat the pre-dawn meal because in the pre-dawn meal is blessing. And then that the Prophet ﷺ, that in another hadith that a man entered into his presence and that the Prophet was eating the pre-dawn meal. And then he said, إِنَّهَا بَرَكَةٌ أَعْطَاكُمُ اللَّهُ إِيَّاهَا فَلَا تَدَعُوهَا. Indeed, that it is blessing that Allah has given you, so do not abandon it or do not leave it. And so it's recommended to eat something for suhoor to enter into the blessing of this hadith. Even if it's a sip of water, even if it's a piece of bread, some type of food or drink intake in order to enter into the blessing of this hadith of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that in another narration, that it says, "Ista'inu bita'am as-suhuri fil suhuri ala siyam an-nahari." And so, "Ista'inu bita'am as-sahari," rather, bi ala siyam an-nahari. That seek the help to fast during the day by the food that you eat and the last part of the night. وَبِالْقَيْلُودَةِ عَلَى قِيَامِ اللَّيْلِ. And by taking a nap, a siesta during the day to pray at night. So what that midday nap is to the tahajjud, praying at night, is what suhoor is to the fasting day. And this is the beauty of our sharia, is that it takes into consideration our nafs. And one of the things that Imam Sha'rani says, one of the wisdoms, which is actually the next sunnah that's coming, about hastening to break your fast after you fasted the whole day, is because there's a hadith that indicates is that you should give the wage of the person that you hired to do something before their sweat dries. In other words, immediately. And not just with other people. This is the justice that you're supposed to have with your own self. Yourself fasted during the day. Treat it well. The way that you would treat someone that you hired for a job well. Give it right away. Because you've prevented it all day long, so give it right away. Give it its portion. Let it relax. Let it get its portion so that it can then worship Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. And this is what's called siyasatun nufus. This is the type of politics that we want to be concerned with. The politics of the soul. This is the governance that we should be concerned with, learning how to govern our souls. Because our souls that are wild is that they want to do whatever it is that they want to do, and we have to govern them. And we have to, nasuqaha, we have to drive them the way that you would drive sheep, and the way that you would drive a herd of goats, that to get where it is that you're going, we have to drive our souls, and sometimes that you have to give it its portion. And to the degree that you give it its portion, as long as it's within the realm of the permissible, and you accompany that a righteous intention, is that when it comes time to be serious, is that you'll be able to be serious. You have to relax when it's time to relax, so that when it's time to be serious and it's time to be focused, that you can do so. And so our Prophet encouraged us to do this. So the suhoor is one of the sunnahs of our Prophet ﷺ, and then you can open up a whole door about the types of foods that we should eat, and that's a whole other topic that's closely related to that. It goes along with our understanding of tayyib. In modern day parlance, tayyib, translated as wholesome, that it includes the meanings of organic, it includes the meanings of local, it includes the meanings of fair trade, it includes the meanings of a whole bunch of other meanings of modern ways that we would express what it means to be tayyib. And the closer that our food is, that not only in terms of being halal but tayyib, we just heard the verse that Ya'u Rusulu kulu min at-tayyibati wa'malu salihah, that all messengers eat from the good things and then you will do righteous deeds. Wa'malu salihah. So in other words, that will be your state, is that when that you eat well, is that you will do righteous deeds. And the opposite is also understood. The next sunnah is ta'jil al-fitr wa ta'khir al-suhoor. So it's recommended to hasten, as we mentioned, to break your fast, but after you have certainty. And to repeat, because I think this is really important, this is a very common mistake that is widespread in our communities, is that when you're using prayer calendars, that don't just wait for the clock to tick, bah, and it hits 8:19 or whatever, and then you put a date in your mouth. It is religiously precautious and important to wait at least 2 minutes. Wait at least 2 minutes and make sure you have certainty. There's a lot of factors that affect the entrance of the prayer time, and some prayer charts differ, and sometimes they're off by up to 2 minutes. So it's not a good idea to just go off the prayer chart. And I've actually personally been fasting before, looked at a prayer chart, and I was in a slightly elevated place when I was in California in Hayward, and I could see the sun right before my eyes. I could see the sun. And the prayer chart said it entered, and I could see the sun because I was in a slightly elevated area. Now, the sun, when it gets down that low to the horizon, is going to set fairly quickly. But 2 minutes is a very good practice. Some choose to wait 3, and then you have certainty, and then you hasten to do it. And then ta'khir al-suhoor, it's recommended to postpone the pre-dawn meal to get close to dawn. Now, another confusing thing, and we spoke about this just before Taraweeh, is that these prayer charts have all different times and different degrees. The recommendation is based upon our teachers in this matter, is to follow the 18-degree mark. The 15-degree really should be avoided. That's very late. And right now it's a difference of about 23 minutes, so it's significant. And it really seems that Fajr enters significantly before that. So I would go off of the 18-degree mark. But then the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ is to stop before dawn the time that it takes to recite 50 verses, which is roughly 15 to 20 minutes. So nowadays, if we look at the prayer charts, that Fajr comes in about 3:44. So the sunnah is to actually stop at 3:24, or 3:29. And I know people are saying, oh, then it's so, by now it's so easy, even if we stopped at 2, that we wouldn't get too hungry or too thirsty during the day. But the sunnah is to postpone it until that last period, and then the sunnah is also to stop about 15 or 20 minutes before dawn, and that it isn't really a good idea to eat right up into the adhan. And some people mistakenly think that you can actually eat to the end of the adhan. If the adhan goes, you have to remove the food that's in your mouth and not swallow it. Or you'll be obliged to make up your fast. And religious precaution is a good thing. And some people say, oh, what does it matter? We're already fasting the whole day. Does Allah care about the details? That does care about the details. Because we are supposed to follow the Sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ. And he told us what it is that we should do. And there was a long hadith that I read today about it's a wa'id, it's a serious threat about breaking fast too early. And it's very serious. If we break it before, if the time's not in, the time is not in. We are people that perfectly balance. And I appreciate, as someone who was raised a Christian, that law. I appreciate the balance between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. And this is what we want, is that we want to be perfectly balanced between the letter of the law and the spirit of law, and put everything in its proper place. So we're not from the ghayr al-mawdub alim, nor are we from the wal-dalleen. That we want to have correct knowledge and implement that knowledge. And look at this blessed hadith. La yazalu nas bi khair ma ajjul al-fitr. Is that my ummah, but people here, will continue to be in a state of good as long as they hasten to break their fast, and again after they have certainty. And wa akhru suhoor, and they postpone the suhoor. What a blessed hadith, and what an amazing hadith. The Prophet is essentially saying, as long as they're putting these two sunnahs into practice, is that they'll be in a good state. And so think about the implications of even what we might consider to be small sunnahs. What our Prophet is indicating is this hirs ala sunnah, that making sure that we are eager to follow the sunnah, is that if that's manifesting in us in these two forms of worship, i.e. that the hastening to break our fast and to postpone the suhoor, is that we will definitely be in a good state. And there's no doubt that following the sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ is the key to all good. There's no way to come to know Allah except through the Rasul ﷺ. He is the door, ﷺ, and his sunnah is the way that we come to know our Lord subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala bless us to be able to follow the sunnah of the Rasul ﷺ in all of our different affairs, and come to love him and to know him and to worship our Lord with sincerity subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah ta'ala bless us in these middle days of this month, and bless us to be from the elect of those who receive the barakat and the rahmat of this month. In bilin awali wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Alhamdulillah.